Well, after 8 forums and a full week of digital democracy here on 94, it's all come down to this forum number 9, Brownbill ward, the central ward and the ward where our station headquarters, where I'm broadcasting from today, are located. You can listen back to all of our previous forums at mitchellsfrontpage.com, or you can simply search for Mitchell's Front Page on your favorite podcasting platform. As with all of the forums that we've held this week, today's candidates are attending remotely to comply with COVID-19 restrictions. Brownbill ward is 49 square kilometres and it has around 55,000 voters, at least at the last election. Brownbill ward is going to elect 3 councillors, and I'm pleased to say that here to answer your questions today, we have Sandy Dwyer, Bernie Franke, Alex Saar, Peter Murray, Stretch Contel, Sarah Mansfield, Eddie Contel, Anchor, Dean Hope, Lewis Hare, Jose Rodriguez, and Melissa Cadwell, which is the full complement of candidates. It's our biggest ward and biggest forum so far, and also ironically it's the forum that we've received the most number of questions for. Now the candidates will have a speaking time limit today of 2 minutes, but to candidates that's a limit, not a challenge. We'd really like to get to as many listener questions as we possibly can, so if you can keep your answers as succinct as possible, that would be wonderful. And the format for today: an opening statement for each candidate of 2 minutes, followed by as many questions as we can fit in from the listeners, and then we'll move to our 2-minute closing statements. And as with all of our forums, the computer will choose the speaking order each time completely at random. So let's move to our 2-minute opening statements, and we'll see who gets to speak first. And chosen first is Stretch Contel. So Stretch, welcome. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. Yeah, so I come to the council election with a long history of community involvement. I was born and bred in Bell Park and Bellpost Hill, educated in North Geelong from parents who immigrated to Australia as refugees post-World War II. So very humble, hardworking background, and really used education to get myself to where I am now. After university, I came back to Geelong and got myself involved very quickly into community service through the Geelong Ethnic Communities Council, where I was president, and the Geelong Migrant Resource Centre. Also was on the board of Grace McKellar and the Migrant Aged Care Services, and then got onto council, where I was a councillor for 17 years until 2015, when I went overseas on a promotion role as Group Legal Director for Specsavers. So I've got experience of some 25 years having worked as a lawyer and also as a really passionate representative of the community and generally of people from humble backgrounds. I tried to be a champion and give them the benefit of my education and business experience. So I believe that I bring a unique skill set to the council, both as a community leader with extensive experience, but also as a business leader. And now, having been away 5 years, I'm impassioned to really make a difference, given the benefit of seeing how things have been done overseas for the last 5 years. I think there's a significant amount of benefit that can be brought back to Geelong that's unique to anyone else that's putting themselves forward at this election. So I'm keen to discuss some of the projects as we go through today's meeting.
Thank you, Stretch. Sandy Dwyer.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. It's like I come from a therapeutic background, and so in that field, it's working with all kinds of different people and their mental, emotional and physical wellness. And through that work, it's really come to my awareness how much our humanness is about collaboration and integration. And these are things that we need to bring to the much bigger picture. It's like they are effective in the smallest aspects of our lives, and they are taken out into the biggest aspects of our lives. And so when we can create integrated design of the city that, you know, holds, that includes like the architecture, the agriculture and the sustainable practices that are abundant now, and the knowledge that we have about how to reverse the climate change. And that's really the main reason I'm running. It's like we have an exponential curve for climate change now, and we had that exponential curve with COVID, and we all came together to, flatten the curve of COVID, and we had no solutions for that. We have lots of solutions for climate change, and so, we can not just flatten but reverse the curve of climate change and use all the skills of our community to do that. And I really would love to hear from the people that have the knowledge and skills and solutions to bring into sustainable businesses, and to address also sustainably the issues of potholes and rates and roads and recycling. Like, they're all part of that. It's how do we integrate the small units and the big.
Thank you, Sandy. That's your 2 minutes. Jose Rodriguez.
Good morning, Mitchell, and everyone listening in. First, I want to acknowledge the efforts of the region, individuals, families, businesses, and institutions that have done it tough for about 8 months. Maintaining confidence throughout this time has been pretty difficult. I know a lot of people have been looking after children, teaching them from home, and it's been very tough. This is a tremendously positive thing for our region, though, because looking back, as we've got the cases down to nil, the region looks very promising, particularly for summer, but also for the future, that it's able to manage things of this type. It's able to manage a pandemic. I think this reflects really well on the culture of the city, on its sort of what some might call mateship, but really it's about looking after each other. And that has a lot to do with cooperation and preparedness and adaptability and understanding. So really, as a resident of 33 years and an architect, I believe the region is really well placed for managing its future. I think it has a great sense of community. It has wonderful natural features, and it's really well placed to benefit from investment, for creative ideas, for clever integration of both technology, infrastructure, and ideas. It's able to do that because of its size. It's able to do that because of its attitudes. And I think Geelong is really well placed in compared to many other major cities to deal with that. I myself have been a practicing architect for over 10 years. I've thrown my hat in the ring because just through professional experience, I know that much of what can be done has to be done at a political level, whether it's local government, state government, or federal government. I think that working as an architect in the private sphere is quite restrictive, and I'm open to throwing my hat in the ring to try to provide some of that knowledge to the community.
Thanks, Jose. Lewis here.
Thanks, Mitchell. Firstly, I'd like to make an acknowledgement of country on the lands we live and work in, and make acknowledgement of the Wathaurong elders past, present, and emerging. My name's Louis. I'm a 20-year-old young man living in Geelong. I've lived in Geelong my whole life. I'm a two-time kidney transplant recipient and a representative of the LGBTIQ plus community. One of the most important things that I have heard from my community is that we're not currently being heard at a council level. We need more funding. We need a safe space for the LGBT community. I acknowledge that we currently have centres like GASP. The community has reached out to me saying we need more non-clinical services, and this goes to a mental health level, I think, as well. We need more mental health services that are peer-led, and that thing of peer-led services is a new idea in Geelong. And as a young person, I would love to be the representative of the young people of Geelong on council.
Thank you very much. Peter Marahi. Peter, you'll just need to unmute yourself if you're there.
I should know. So thanks thanks Mitchell, and thanks to Pulse for this opportunity. The only time I think all candidates will be together, albeit virtual. So hi everyone, my name is Peter Murrahy. I've lived in the Brownbill ward for over 35 years. I've raised and educated 3 daughters here, been involved and still involved in community sporting clubs my whole life, playing and coaching. Coached Newtown Football Club, coached Geelong Amateurs, have been president of the Lawn Surf Club, current president of the Geelong Racing Club. I think I'm addicted to the sound of a whistle coming from some distant sporting ground on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, and certainly missed that this year. I was in the police force for over 20 years, and I think through the sporting and my profession, it gives me a good grounding and good understanding of community. And I think I've used that experience on council, and really look forward, hopefully, to a further 4 years doing that. So thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Peter. Eddie Contel.
Thanks, Mitch. First of all, I pay my respects to Wadawurrung, traditional owners of this land, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Greater Geelong community today. Look, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about myself because I don't think that's what the listeners want to hear about. They want to hear about what we're actually wanting to do going forward for the community. So whilst I've been a councillor for some 9 years, for me, representing the community is all about putting the community first. So in fact, the agenda for the next 4 years for me is already written. The community have told us and told me clearly what they want. And what they want is for us and me as a councillor to help navigate Geelong through COVID-19 and beyond. And what I'll do and how I'll do that is by trying to create employment opportunities and help and support small businesses. That can be done through council, through the investment in capital expenditure, in much needed infrastructure, drainage, footpaths, roads, playgrounds, community facilities, sporting grounds. We've budgeted some $160 million for capital expenditure this year and a whopping $210 million next year. So that needs to be filtered straight into the community, and local government is the fastest level of government in getting that done. Introducing free CBD parking, particularly around hospitals, permanently is something I will be pushing extremely hard. And I've got a proven track record to get that done because we're currently enjoying free CBD parking up until Christmas. I'll also champion environment protection initiatives, such as using recycled materials, including glass, plastics, rubber, concrete in roads, footpaths, playgrounds, outdoor furniture. And I'm going to passionately support the hospitality industry, our live music and entertainment and arts industries that's suffering so terribly at the moment with COVID. And I'll certainly be fighting very hard and working to continue to deliver efficient and effective services so that we can reduce the rate and financial.
Thank you. That's your 2 minutes, but plenty of opportunities to come back in. Alex Saar.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. And first of all, yes, I do want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we are meeting on today and that we are seeking to represent, the Wadawurrung people, and offer my acknowledgement and respect to the elders past, present and emerging. I come here, I'm not, I will admit I'm not not here from birth. My family moved, we moved down 9 years ago, seeking a better life for us down here and and a place that we could raise our family. We have embraced the community, and the community has embraced us. What I want to bring to the council is, I guess, a perspective sort of outside the bubble and represent the everyday person. There is a sense that the council seems to get caught up in affairs within the city centre rather than paying any attention to the fringes, regardless of where their representatives may originally have come from. I want to see a a city that that serves its people rather than expecting its people to be serving its centre. I don't come in with powerful friends that expect favours of me. I just want to serve as and bring my own perspective and hopefully make Geelong greater than it currently is. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean Hope.
Yes, thanks, Mitchell. Thanks for the opportunity. Look, I'm a long-term Geelong resident and have lived in Geelong West for the last 15 years. Currently, I work as a manager at the Australia Post Customer Contact Centre in Melbourne, although for most of my working life, I've worked in human resources type roles in both Melbourne and Geelong. I'm also a Justice of the Peace. I believe we need to take immediate action to reduce unemployment and improve opportunities, reduce crime and enhance economic development. We must support and protect our neighbourhoods and our businesses. We can no longer tolerate a divided council, and we need fresh eyes, new ideas, and better communication and collaboration between council, our neighbourhoods, and our businesses. My style in working to solve problems through a respectful, collaborative effort with a common sense approach has been a key to my success in life. I will be a leader who understands and is willing to reach out and form partnerships with our residents and our businesses to find solutions. We need to find ways to bring more businesses and job opportunities back to Geelong. Thanks, Mitchell.
Thank you. Gabrielle Wineka.
Thank you, Michelle. As you know, my name is Gabriel Onyeka, for those that don't know me. I've moved to Geelong about 14 years ago, originally from Zimbabwe. And my main drive for wanting to be on council is to help serve not only those in my community in the Brownbill ward, but also those that are from non-Australian backgrounds. For a long time, council has done a lot of really great work for Geelong as a whole, but there seems to be a lack of representation for those that are maybe first families or first migrant families in Australia, those that are maybe not originally from Australia. And so that's my main push to be on council. I also want to be a voice for young people on council. For a long time, council has had a big focus on business, which is very, very important. But also I feel like a lot of young people feel like they're not heard or seen by council. We've seen through the impact of COVID, the impact of mental health across all of our region, but young people are particularly suffering and they feel like they're not being heard by their councillors. As a councillor, one of the things that I want to make, or I'll also be looking to advocate for, is better infrastructures for mental health, and also looking to increase our efforts in climate change. Yep, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you very much, Melissa Cadwell.
Thanks very much, Mitch. Appreciate it. And a hello and a big welcome to all the listeners out there, and particularly to my fellow candidates. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we sit, the Wathaurong people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. My name is Melissa Cadwell. I'm a local like you. I went to Geelong East Primary and Geelong High School, and I grew up in St Albans Park. I live on the same street that I grew up on, where I've bought a house. I'm running for council because I feel that there's no one like me on council, and I'm asking for your vote because I want to see people like us from the outer suburbs actually get a fair go from this council. I feel the current council really only cares about the CBD and business interests and their big property developer mates. You only need to read the Addy to see that, but no one seems to care about our suburbs, about our streets, our community, and our neighbourhoods. If elected, I'll oppose any increase in costs for essential community services like preschool and childcare, home care and Meals on Wheels, and libraries and leisure centres. I'm going to oppose any reduction or outsourcing or privatisation of council jobs and services. And I'm going to work hard to bring our local streets, parks and community spaces up to the same standard across all of Geelong. I believe in the science of climate change and I want council to play its role. I'll support initiatives that reduce emissions across the municipality, including targets in council operations. I think we're only going to get a fair go from council if we elect someone who's actually going to stick up for our area and our issues. Someone like me, an everyday working person who'll care enough to make sure that we all get a fair go and a fair share. So I'm asking for your vote in this election. It's time for one of us for a change on council. Vote 1 Melissa Cadwell if you want to see things change for the better in our great city. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Bernie Frankie.
Thanks, Mitchell. The current council has its head up its own arse. The reason your residential and business rates keep going up is that the council wages bill keeps going up. People sitting at desks, writing reports, plans, strategies and frameworks that have stuff all to do with local government. The rising council wages bill is the core issue that nobody at the current council wants to talk about. The rubbish service. Tip fees are now unaffordable, rubbish dumping is epidemic, and now they want you to drop off your own glass recycling. Maybe they should pay you for a do-it-yourself rubbish service. Council grandiosity. Council built itself a new office, its kingdom in the sky. The aged and disabled now wait months for council home care services that can help them continue to live at home. Council builds a palace and the aged and disabled pay for it. Council's cart before the horse green spine. Council wants to close more city streets and lose even more parking because it sees Geelong as a pedestrian and cycling nirvana. How can you possibly do that without first working out how an increase in population can move east to west across the city? The fines for tip. Just how does a council resolution on the future of 100-year fines for tip just disappear into thin air? After years of obfuscation, can the residents ever expect a straight answer to a straight question? So what does the next council need to accomplish? Council could start by pulling their heads out of their backsides and giving business and residential ratepayers a break. The primary reason your rates keep going up is that nobody is controlling the escalating council wages bill. Thanks, Mitchell. It's time for me to shut up.
Thank you, Sarah Mansfield.
Thank you, Mitchell. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm joining you from the land of the Wadawurrung people and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge any First Nations people who are joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a current City of Greater Geelong councillor. I'm a local GP and a senior lecturer at Deakin University. I moved to Geelong 10 years ago to be with my husband, and during my term in council, I've had 2 children. I've worked with people experiencing homelessness, mental health and drug and alcohol issues. I've got a really strong interest in public health and studied health policy and financing at the London School of Economics. It was my work as a doctor that inspired me to become a counsellor in the first place. It's during my work that I realised that the things that have the biggest impact on people's health and well-being aren't medicines or surgery, but it's our social and physical environment. And I've seen this during my time on council. And if there's any level of government that can really have an impact on social and environmental factors that affect people's health, it's local government. It's been such a privilege to serve you on council for the past 3 years. I'm really proud of what I've been able to work with the community to contribute during that time. Some of those things include pushing for stronger action on climate change, supporting a social and affordable housing strategy and other measures to address inequity, fighting for safer cycling infrastructure and protection of the green spine. I led council to take a stronger stance against poker machines and introduced measures to reduce waste going to landfill, including our first single-use plastics policy. I've been an advocate for gender equity, more inclusive council services for all ages, genders and abilities, and better recognition of First Nations people, including the development of the city's first Reconciliation Action Plan. I've enjoyed helping to get vital infrastructure like footpaths, bus shelters and playgrounds prioritised. I've been a strong advocate for transparency and good governance. And of course, there are little things like getting some beehives on the roof of City Hall. While we've made progress, I believe that there's much more to be done. COVID-19 has had a major impact on everyone in our community, and we need to make sure as we recover that we support those who are most in need. We also need to find opportunities.
Thank you. That's your 2 minutes. Sorry. We're going to move now to questions, and we're going to try and fit in as many questions as we possibly can. So if we could please have succinct answers as much as possible, that would be greatly appreciated. Our first question comes in from Jared, and he says, prior to the pandemic, the Little Mallop Street West End laneways provided Geelong residents with top-notch dining, entertainment and nightlife options, creating a real vibrant cultural centre for the CBD. The area could potentially play a key role in hospitality's recovery as a move to more outdoor settings may be required. And this area with ample outdoor space and little vehicle traffic is perfectly suited to that scenario. Next, council will have to decide whether it supports this growth by restricting car and truck access or deny it by opening up vehicles from Moorabool Street. Will you support Geelong's cultural centre and prioritise accessibility for pedestrian accessing this fantastic local business within the laneways? And listed first is Sarah Mansfield.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. Look, I've always been a really strong advocate for improving active transport options like footpath use, cycling. I think that area of central Geelong is a real gem, and we need to do everything we can to support the businesses there, especially with the restrictions of COVID. We need to be looking at maximising opportunities for those businesses to have alfresco dining and entertainment. It also will not only support hospitality but the arts. So if we can reduce traffic movements through that area and make it a space that people can safely walk around, I think that'd be a great outcome for business, the community and our arts sector.
Thank you, Stretch Kuntel. Stretch, you'll just need to unmute yourself there.
Yeah, thank you, Mitchell. That area of Little Mallup Street between Moorabool and Jeringhap Street is an area that I identified with when I was on council as an area that should be set aside for al fresco dining. So the legacy of that was set up by previous council of which I was part. So I'm an absolute passionate advocate that area should be further enhanced for pedestrian and al fresco dining and restriction of motor vehicles, absolutely. That area links the CBD to the cultural precinct, which should be a vision that this future council really takes on and uses arts, live music and hospitality to revitalise the CBD. It's a missing link that this current council has not taken up, and to that extent, that's why the hospitality and live music industry is suffering to the extent that it has. They really have been asleep at the wheel, apart from one or two instances, but it's an area that needs to be a focus, that the CBD revitalisation needs to be led by arts and culture.
Thank you, Gabriel Winenka.
Thank you for that really great question. I too believe that we need to be restricting vehicle traffic in that particular area. Like has already been mentioned, but increasing pedestrian foot traffic is good for small business. It means that those small businesses that are there will see more people coming by and stopping in their shops, whether it's for dining opportunities, whether it's engaging with live music, or whether it's just getting better exposure to their different brands. So I definitely be, if I was elected councillor, I would definitely be supporting reducing foot traffic on that particular area.
Thank you, Jose Rodriguez.
Motor traffic.
Thank you, Jose Rodriguez.
Thank you. Look, I actually, about 12 years ago, I set up a storefront in that area. It was actually underneath the City of Greater Geelong car park. And I've seen the change in the cultural mix of that area. I think about 25 years ago, it was a little bit of a cultural hub, and it even had the origins of restaurants like Movida, had its origins in that street. And then more recently, really flagship stores like Coffee Cartel and Hot Chicken Project, which are sort of stores that sort of get national attention. And look, I'm very supportive of things that increase the alfresco. I think Geelong doesn't need to look very far to know how that works, but there are a lot of different interest groups. There's also residents that live in that area. There's apartment buildings. So we just have to take all of that on balance and work out what's the best way to manage it. It's a traffic issue. It's a hospitality issue. I think there's a great opportunity there.
Thank you. Sandy Dwyer.
Hi, thanks. I really agree with a lot of what everybody has already said. Like, it's a great thing to reduce traffic through the area and you know, build up those social and cultural zones. I think there's also a potential to, like, rather than just zooming into this one particular dot, to kind of zoom out a bit bigger and sort of look at how that fits into the much bigger picture of our community. And there's probably lots of other places that we can look at building up little cultural hubs as well. And also, how do we do that in a way that generates more jobs and, you know, contributes to like getting more trees and natural resources into the areas. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Peter Marahi.
Yes, thanks, Mitch. Look, I'm very supportive of the restrictive vehicle access to this Little Malop Street area. Certainly the alfresco dining, hospitality options that are available there can really lead the CBD recovery. And any encouragement we can give, we must. And that includes cutting red tape that would probably normally exist for what may be available in that area. And we must, as a council, really encourage the alfresco area. It's certainly been a great example the last few weekends of the piano bar operating in a laneway there, which brings people in. And, you know, in the future, that whole precinct, when you develop down into the arts centre, the post office, when that's work is done, that whole area was going to be very exciting. So, yes to the question. I'm supportive of the restricted vehicle access to Little Malop Street.
Thank you, Dean Hope.
Yes, look, it sounds like we're all pretty much in agreement. I think it's a fantastic area, and we certainly need to be promoting it for alfresco type activities, especially as we come out of COVID, and also we start to get some decent weather. People will come. We've just got to provide them a great environment to come out and enjoy that area. So yeah, I'm fully supportive limiting vehicle traffic through there.
Thank you, Eddie Contel.
Thanks, Mitchell. I think what I've heard thus far is actually a little narrow in the thinking. It's not about reducing traffic. It's completely stopping traffic from being in portions of Little Malop Street. And it's probably only because many of the candidates aren't close enough to it that they don't realise that what the business owners in that area, West End, Pistol Pete's, Coffee Cartel, the Twisted Dessert Bar, and more, want is permanent ban of vehicles. The plan that I've been working on with the retailers and traders in that area is to permanently close vehicles off between Shorts Place and Denny's Lane. That would ensure that Geelong has its first ever permanent 24-hour alfresco dining area. And that is the way that we will rival the laneways and the laneway culture of the bigger cities such as Melbourne and those that we've experienced over in Europe. It's the traders and the restaurant owners and hospitality owners that are guiding me in the plan to actually close vehicles off permanently from Little Malop Street and have that as a vibrant little hub in the centre of the CBD. So not restricting vehicles, permanently closing them off from Little Malop Street.
Thank you, Alex Saar.
Thanks. Well, I too endorse having that section of Little Malop Street closed for alfresco dining and ensuring restrictions are in place to promote similar activities elsewhere in that block and within the city. Streets like Little Malop Street, amongst others, should be destination streets rather than places that people want to come to rather than just pass through. So in order to, we can't do that if the street's still being treated as being a traffic sewer. So, I want to ensure that there are those restrictions in place, and as well as that, ensuring that there is also support for those travelling in by other modes too. Cheers.
Thank you, Lewis Hare.
Yeah, thanks, Mitchell. I completely endorse the idea of opening up Little Mallet Street for pedestrians. I think that we absolutely need the ability for restricted vehicle access to that area, which would promote more jobs and greater access to businesses in that area.
Okay, thank you. Melissa Cadwell.
Hi, Mitchell. Thanks for that question. Yeah, I absolutely support greater pedestrian access and less cars in Little Mallet Street. I'd actually like to see a focus on the outer suburbs though, and I do feel that this council doesn't actually care about the local business owners in the suburbs that I live in Newcombe, or shop owners and business owners in Bell Park and Bell Post Hill. It's too focused on the CBD, and what I'd like to see is a focus on the outer suburbs in areas like the places I live. That's what I want to see.
Thank you. And Bernie Frankie.
No more bullshit, no more closed streets, no more lost parking till council pulls the finger out and resolves the east-west traffic issue.
Okay, we'll move on now to the next question. Dogs. It comes in from Rob, and he says, what are your thoughts on a dog park or dog off lead area for dogs in the ward, and where would be the best location for it? And listed first is Sarah Mansfield.
Thank you very much for that question. Look, I think dog parks has been a really hot topic during the last 3 years in council, and there's been quite a lot of work done on looking for places that we can have more off-lead dog parks. I think it's something that's definitely come up a lot with COVID as well. It's turned out to be a really great opportunity for people to have some socially distanced social interaction and really helped with people's health and well-being. In terms of the best locations, look, in the ward, there have been a few suggestions made. I don't know that I'd be really interested to hear from the community about where they think would be the best location. I know quite a few people have been talking about Baker's Oval being used quite a lot as a dog park. I guess the issue is balancing that against other uses of different ovals, but I'm very supportive of getting more dog parks in the ward because it's, as I said, a great way for people to socialise and get some exercise.
Thank you, Eddie Contel.
Thanks, Mitchell. Yes, absolutely. We've initiated some 3 dog parks since I joined council 3 years ago, and there is no doubt that the intent is to introduce further dog parks, not only through the Brownbill ward, but more broadly across Geelong. As Councillor Mansfield has mentioned, Baker's Oval has been one that the community has been talking to us about quite significantly, given that its walkability to Geelong West, Hamlin Heights, Herne Hill. But equally, some of the newer areas, such as the Finesford Estate, there is land available to be able to introduce further dog parks into that area. Also, what residents have been telling me and dog owners is they want us to have best practices in terms of the design of dog parks, where there is segregation between some of the larger dogs and then the opportunity for owners of smaller dogs to have their section of the parks available for those dogs. And so that's the community feedback that we're taking into consideration as we're designing these dog parks going forward. So absolutely, certainly more dog parks, and we have budgeted as such in this financial year.
Thank you, Gabriel Winika.
Thank you for that. I think dogs and dog parks in general are a fantastic idea because they go to aid mental health. They go to aid in social cohesion of our community. I regularly walk down in our Finesford community, and there's a wonderful dog community in Finesford, and it's been a great way for people to get to know each other, particularly in these difficult times when there's social isolation. So any moves to creating spaces where dog owners can gather and have their dogs off leashes and socialize is a fantastic idea. And I'm definitely will be open to any suggestions of creating a designated dog park within our communities.
Thank you, Sandy Dwyer.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I also really support the idea of more dog parks for all the reasons people have said. You know, mental and physical wellness of people and the dogs as well. And I really feel that potentially this is an issue that a citizens' assembly could be really useful in resolving. It's like, get the people involved in where the dog parks could be and what are the best ways of managing the dogs of all sizes and the people, you know, with their different needs around their dogs too. I feel, yeah, citizens' assembly would be a great way to resolve that.
Thank you, Lewis Hare.
Sorry about that. Mitchell got stuck
Right.
on mute. I think
No worries.
Peterlow Reserve already has the fencing. We've literally just got to add the extra bit of fencing to stop dogs and people getting out. It's currently used during the day by Manifold Heights and Holy Spirit, my old primary school. And I was speaking to dog walkers down at Baker's Oval, and they said this would be the ideal spot. However, the response from council was that they've already had inquiries from a few football clubs, and that would be my personal opinion, is that given the mental health impact of COVID, we should be looking at how we can help these communities, and I think Peterlow Reserve is the best place to do that.
Thank you, Dean Hope.
Sorry about that. Look, I think in principle, I definitely support more dog parks. Opportunities for people to walk their dogs is fantastic. I think the challenge, of course, is to identify suitable locations and how those dog parks might work effectively. So to me, it would be something you'd be looking for some feedback and consultation with the residents to determine the details. But I think in principle, it's something to support for sure.
Melissa Cadwell.
Thanks, Mitch. Absolutely, this is something that's really dear to my heart. I actually have been campaigning on a local park at Aldershot Reserve in St Albans Park, and we absolutely need secure fenced-off areas for people to take their dogs. It's a big area and it's totally wasted at the moment. So I'd love to see dog parks and things like that actually out in the areas I live, in the southeastern suburbs. We need dog parks across the ward, of course, but everyone at the moment is sort of talking about the dog parks in the CBD and in the north, and you know, people in the south actually have dogs and want to walk their dogs and get some local exercise as well. So I'd love to see that. It's really disappointing to see actually Stretch Contelge campaigning out in that park, because he was saying that, you know, he was going to turn it into an oasis and look after the locals, and unfortunately he had 17 years on council to do that. And in 2015 there was $100,000 actually allocated for funding upgrades and security upgrades of that Aldershot Reserve park, including dog parks. Council said they would fund that and spend that money, and none of that money was spent, and that was actually at the time that the Contelges were actually on council. So yeah, as I say, really dear to my heart, but I actually want to see action. I don't want to just see constant master plans being put out to the community for consultation. I want to see local action and implementation. Thanks.
Alex Sarr.
Thank you, Mitchell. Now, of course, this is something an issue that I've been wanting to address. I've spoken to dog walkers down at Baker's Oval. They enjoy that space because it's a simple setup. It's all that's required is a fenced oval that makes it easier to control dogs and ensure that they don't run off. Of course, it is very walkable for that community, and it gives them a chance to catch up with their neighbours as well as being able to walk the dogs. They also realise the challenges with that particular oval, given obviously with the Geelong West Giants and the Gaelic Football Club there as well. They are quite happy, quite open to having other ovals like Peterlow Reserve just up the road from Baker's Oval being set up in a similar fashion. But obviously, there's been those issues with sporting clubs who have remained unnamed when inquiries have been made, having put having a hold on that ground. With the dog parks, they don't have to be anything special. Just obviously a fence that the dogs can't easily get through. Something which could easily and quite cheaply could be rolled out throughout the ward and the city, and they would provide that the required space so that people can walk their dogs under control. Cheers.
Thank you, Bernie Frankie.
Thanks, Mitchell. I don't support them. Dog parks mean there are less and less places that you can legally walk your dog off lead. The dog park at Stead Park becomes a muddy mess and it's not very well looked after. Preserve off-lead dog walking areas.
Thank you very much. Stretch Contel.
Thank you, Mitch. It may not surprise people once they learn that if I wasn't going to be a lawyer, I was going to be a vet. And I think I'm probably the only candidate who's actually got dog-friendly parks in their 300-word manifesto. As the ward councillor, when I was previously on council for Kildare Ward, I established the first dog park in Geelong from Queen's Park through to Finesford, and also one in Rotary Park. So I wasn't the ward councillor for Aldershot Reserve, but I can assure you, Melissa, had I been, there would have been a dog park there. And that ward was held by another councillor. I'm very much about dog parks, but I agree we need community consultation. We need a whole of Geelong approach to this, because it's not only in our particular ward that we want dog parks. We want them all around Geelong, because dog owners like to share the open spaces with their pets. So we need to work with all our colleague councillors to open up the beaches during appropriate times. But we also need in place dog waste bins. That's one of the bugbears that people find, that when they're walking along the rivers and so on, there aren't enough dog waste bins. So I think if I was to get elected, I'd have a strategy around dog-friendly open spaces as much as possible for all the health and physical reasons that we discussed. But no need sniping at me because I've got a record of achievement in relation to my wards, and I can assure you, anyone wants to take me on, I'm very happy to do that. But don't snipe at me in relation to achievement in relation to my time on council, because I'm quite happy for that fight, I assure you.
Jose Rodriguez.
Thanks, Mitchell. Look, I use Baker's Over pretty frequently with my son, and it's quite nice to kind of have this sort of unwritten law. Most of the dog walkers sort of take half of the oval and the other half just sports, anyone kicking the footy or the soccer ball in the case of my son and I. Or we ride around the perimeter on our bike. And look, I think that there's a place for dog parks. I think an oval that is specifically for sporting activity can be a bit challenging, because it puts adds a little bit more pressure on the sporting club to get it ready for even, just droppings and all kinds of things. So when things pick up, those ovals will probably have to be managed by the sporting club and council. And so you've got to just weigh up all those things. I think there are lots of good space. I think Geelong has so much open space available that it's not that hard to utilize some of that underutilized open space. So yeah, I'm sure that it can be identified, and I'm sure there is sufficient funding for it. So I'd be all for sort of nominating and creating some good spaces. And maybe Finesford is a great one. I think it was mentioned by somebody, but right near the Finesford Hotel, it's just big open space. It's like perfect. Everyone can walk there. And you can walk along the river, or you can walk along Linear Park, and you can get there. Wonderful. Thank
you, Peter Murray.
Yes, thanks, Mitchell. And you can see how passionate people. It's like a simple topic, but it certainly raises the passion, and that's good. Look, I walk my dog every day. We're down at Cardinia Park, a couple of ovals down there. So I get the feeling, and I understand people's passion for walking their dogs and needing a safe place to do it. And I certainly think this council has done well in relation to dog parks. And there's just very recently, we passed a motion that there'd be a new one built. Now, it might be in Cardinia Ward, but it is just over the river. It will be just over the river, just under the High Street Bridge there on the Cardinia Ward side. But it's certainly one that if you're in walking distance from Brownbill, that you could access that. And I'm certainly aware that Baker's Oval is very, very popular with owners with their dogs, and it does seem a very safe place. But of course, it's on a footy oval. That's its primary use. The suggestion of behind the Finesford Hotel is an excellent one. I like that one. You ride your bike around the river and you get down there around 4:30, 5 o'clock of an evening, and there's dogs everywhere. And it's a great area, big area. So, I think if you're looking for another area, that's ideal. And I really understand the social aspect. You see people standing, talking to each other, and it's great. So very supportive of the safe dog areas.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try and squeeze in one more question before we go to closing statements. This question is about cycling, and this person says, "Dear councillor candidates, if elected, what will you do to help our community members who wish to travel by bicycle as their primary mode of transit, but don't feel safe to do so on our current road network?" And the questioner goes on to talk about various health benefits and CO2 emission reduction benefits from cycling. Listed first is Lewis Hare.
Thanks, Mitchell. I point to council's decision to tear up a bit of the greenspine earlier this year, to the point the state government has felt the need to take over that project to ensure that it was completed in its originally funded manner. I believe, as a person from the suburbs, we need greater access to bike paths into the CBD for work, for school, and for, I ride my bike with my 11-year-old brother. He needs a safe place to ride away from cars. I think more bike paths is the right way to go.
Thank you, Bernie. Frankie?
Well, I ride a bike. I rode a bike to work for years, and I ride for fitness now. But I'm a bike rider. I don't pay registration, and I think cars, the city is for business. And when I see people going to do their shopping and take their kids to school on the bike, well, I'll be convinced otherwise. But the way we're closing down the roads in Geelong and get rid of parking, it's not sustainable. Thanks, Mitchell.
Thank you, Melissa Cadwell.
Thanks, Mitchell. Look, I totally support cycling and good connectivity of cycling paths and all sorts of public transport initiatives. But I'd like to see those things properly planned, properly implemented. Apart from the Bellarine Rail Trail where I live, out in St Albans Park, there's not a scrap of cycling infrastructure in the outer suburbs in the east. So I would definitely be supportive of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Stretch Contel.
Yes, big supporter of bike paths. In fact, I don't own a motor vehicle. My mode of transport is a bike or public transport. So I'd like to see all councillors actually follow that lead. I see a lot of councillors getting around in vehicles and then putting in for travel allowances. I'd like to see a reversal of that. If anything, I want to see more electric vehicles in Geelong, more public transport, and more electric bikes. If anything, as councillors, we should be leading the revolution of clean, green 21st century, not just talking about it. I'd like to see all councillors on bikes. I'm not seeing enough of that. Often, I'm the only person on a bike for kilometres for the whole trip in and out of Geelong. So we talk a lot about bikes, but I'm not seeing the councillors who are talking about bike lanes actually using them. So if you want to talk bike lanes, then get on your bike as well, please.
Thank you, Gabrielle Wineka.
I ride every morning for exercise, and I think riding is a very important thing. And like you already mentioned, it's good for the environment, it's good for our own health. But I think the issue that underlines this idea for green space is about safety. People don't feel that they can safely ride into the city and back again. People don't feel like they can put their kids on bikes and say, hey, go to school and I'll meet you back home or whatever. And that's what the council need to do. It's good to talk the talk. It's good to jump on a bike. But unless we address the issue of safety for our citizens in Geelong, then it becomes very difficult. And that's why I will definitely be advocating for more green space, more green spines along our roads, because it encourages people to feel safe on our roads. currently, when you go out on your bike, you don't feel safe because you're fighting for the road between yourself and other cars. And until we can provide a safe space for cyclists, we will find very little uptake of cycling in our city.
Thank you, Peter Marahi.
Yes, thank you. Look, I'm very supportive of the bike, what's been done so far in relation to bike lanes and what is planned for the future. I'm certainly supportive of the e-bikes and e-scooters. In fact, I had a birthday very recently and my family asked me what I wanted for my birthday and I said an e-scooter. I haven't received it yet, but hopefully, fingers crossed, I will very shortly.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. And look, I think my track record on this issue probably speaks for itself. I've been a very strong supporter of cycling infrastructure in Geelong. And as Gabrielle was mentioning before, it is really an issue of safety. I'm a regular bike rider, but I'm not a confident cyclist. I ride sort of to get places. I was riding into council meetings up until my third trimester in both my pregnancies, until I was pretty much told I should maybe give that a miss. And the biggest thing was about my safety and the risk of being knocked over by a vehicle. The only place on that journey I ever felt safe was on that green spine protected strip. And if we want to get more people cycling, in particular people who aren't confident cyclists, so that includes women who are often not as confident, not all women, but we know from the evidence that they are more likely to ride if they have protected bike lanes, children and other groups of people who maybe don't feel as confident on the road. We need to have safe cycling infrastructure, and that needs to extend it needs to not just be in the CBD, but extend out to all of our suburbs across the municipality.
Thank you, Sandy Dwyer.
Yep, I completely agree with all of that. I feel like it is so much about safety and so much about, reducing the emissions and people being encouraged to use bikes and electric vehicles and e-scooters. Like, I really love the potential, and that certainly forms part of my much bigger vision of Geelong, where people can feel safe riding along beautiful paths that are protected, that there's more green around them. And it feels like it's part of a much bigger picture, and there's a lot of factors that need to be considered in that, but it's like let's do this. Like, yes.
Thank you very much. Jose Rodriguez. You'll just need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Mitchell. Look, I think the attitude towards cycling has changed a lot. And I think things like the Cadell Evans Road Race sort of point towards what the future is like. We have a really strong cycling community. I think we have a great event to reinforce the potential for cycling. And I think that we have existing recreational, so not competitive, but recreational links that are quite good for people's well-being. I think that there are still some attitudes that need to change surrounding alternative forms of transport, but I think that's something that takes time, and I think it's getting there. I think as long as council continues to promote cycling as a primary form of transport, not just an alternative, then I think it's going to be fine. I'd love to see more connections between those existing network links and really so that people can understand. I think another member mentioned the East-West link. It's similar. How do you get from one side of the city to the other safely? It's as simple as that.
Thank you very much, Alex Sal.
Thank you, Mitchell. I am actually, I'm a keen cyclist. Until COVID-19, had its full impact, I was actually riding into work and back again, of course. So I'm fully aware of the issues around that. There does need to be a need for protected cycling infrastructure, something more than just paint on roads. Paint is not an engineering solution. So introducing, to use the term, a Copenhagen-style arrangement where there is proper segregation between cyclists and motor vehicles. with the green spine, the biggest deficiency with that is that it's only just that one block. It does need to be supported with treatments either side, providing that east-west link across the city, and also, of course, ensuring that facilities further out are properly set up. The cement works line near where I live, it is a good path, but it is let down by the fact that when you come to major roads, it is hard to cross. Council should be ensuring that there are proper crossings there, if need be, of course, securing that from state government, because that line, that route could actually work quite well, not just in terms of recreational cycling, but as a commuter route for those people working in North Geelong who may actually benefit from using a bike rather than having to drive.
Thank you very much, Dean Hope.
Yes, look, agree. Anything we can do to encourage more bike riding should be considered. The challenge, of course, is people aren't going to ride bikes around if they don't feel safe. So it's that challenge of getting traffic management under control, and then people will start to ride their bikes because they're feeling safe and they're feeling that they're quite frankly not at risk of being hit by cars. Thank you.
Thank you, and Eddie Contel.
Thanks, Mitchell. Look, it probably matters little whether we ride bikes or don't here on the panel, but whilst I don't know everyone here, I'd probably suggest I've ridden more kilometres than anyone on this panel, and I hold 2 world records for cycling. So I certainly know quite a bit about cycling. It's not about us designing routes or pathways. There already exists a principal bike network. What we need to do is continue to invest in the principal bike network. It's been designed, the strategy's there, and that's what we need to continue to roll out. We need to do that appropriately, though, and in sync with a transport network operating plan. What we don't want to do is put significant over-engineered infrastructure into places where we don't have solutions or alternative routes for the current major form of transport, which is likely cars and public transport. The CBD is one of those areas. We need to be careful. We need to continue to introduce bike infrastructure, but at the same time, we need to be lobbying and pushing very hard the state government to get the transport network operating plan in place, get east-west traffic moving correctly, as has already been said here, so we can get the trucks out of the CBD, and only then can we really start to capitalise on cycling infrastructure. Well, just finish off, as for the green spine, the state government has had control of that now for 12 months. They've not done a thing about it. What they need to do is actually get that finished so that the green spine bike lanes actually go somewhere. We've got 100 metres of laneway that goes absolutely nowhere. The state government need to get off their seats and get that finished.
Thanks, Eddie. We'll have to move to closing statements, and I'm really sorry to all the people that put in questions that we just couldn't get to. There are a lot of really good questions here, a lot of questions in front of me. I think, gee, I'd really like to ask them that, but we've already been going for an hour. So we'll have to move to closing statements where each candidate will have 2 minutes, either to refute something that another candidate has said, or to reiterate why people should vote for them, or to perhaps raise an issue that we haven't yet got to through the questions. And listed first is Eddie Contel.
Thank you, Mitchell. I've already talked up front about some of the things that I'll be advocating for, including navigating Geelong and the community through COVID-19 and beyond, particularly small business, so that we can create jobs, and also free CBD parking and the continuation of hard waste. However, being elected a councillor in Geelong and having the ability to give back to this community certainly is a privilege and an honour that I would not deny to anyone, but ensuring that our community has appropriate all abilities and disability access in all council facilities and more broadly is certainly imperative. I'll lobby for better public transport and increased police presence to improve the safety and security, and also to reduce things such as violence and theft and graffiti and vandalism. And the big topic at the moment has been the hoon driving. This will also include identifying high-risk areas that will benefit from the installation of CCTV cameras, and I'll actively help and support the vulnerable organisations that best represent the interests of our community, our youth, our families, our precious elderly, our sporting clubs, and of course, our very respected military veterans. Also the multicultural and cultural communities. I'll look after our heritage places and our landmarks. And my aim is to play my part in ensuring that Geelong is a diverse and welcoming community where all residents, community members, investors and visitors can achieve their aspirations and their personal, professional and community lives without fear or limitations. I've always said that our potential and ambitions should only be limited by our imagination. So with that said, I respectfully ask the community to vote me into the next council to work with them for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex Sir.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. I believe that Greater Geelong should be a council that is respectful for those who work for the council and ensure that they can that there is a respectful culture within the council and they don't have to worry with bullying. That it is respectful to those people who live throughout the city, not just in the city, but in the fringes, making sure that they have the services and facilities that they need. Respectful of those who come into the city, regardless of their means, regardless of their how they travel into the city, ensuring that that everyone can enjoy Geelong. I believe that we need to ensure that there is a true community here, and that we're not the council is not just simply looking out for the mates of those who happen to be on council. So I believe that we can be a greater Geelong, and with that, I hope you can entrust your vote with me. Cheers.
Thank you, Lewis Hare. Go ahead.
Council has done a great job advocating for small and local business.
I think we might have lost Lewis. Sorry, you're just muting. Are you there now?
Yep, that should be good.
Right, give it a go.
Council has done a job at supporting small and local business this year. However, they haven't done anything about pet registrations, rates, the things that really matter to people at a local community level. And if elected, I want to make sure that people are able to recover after COVID-19 and that Geelong is able to recover from this virus.
Thank you very much, Dean Hope.
Yes, thank you. Look, one of the things that struck me in this campaign has been the overt advertising that's just about on every corner, just about every shop front. There's a photo of someone, vote for me, for Brownbill. Same old faces, the same old crew. What I think we need this round is change, and we need to give people an opportunity, perhaps for the first time, to have a go and represent the community perhaps in different ways than what they've been used to so far. It's almost like when you go out there and you walk up in Nampako, it's almost intimidating, where every shop front has a photo and a slogan and a logo. I guess what I would just ask the voters is when you're sitting there looking at your ballot paper and just wondering who to support, just remember a vote for Dean is a vote for hope, and we certainly need some of that at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Mansfield.
Thank you. And look, I think from our comments, everyone's comments today, everyone's really passionate about Geelong. It's a wonderful place to live. It's got a great sense of community, and we're lucky to be surrounded by some of the most beautiful natural assets in the country. However, one thing that we haven't talked a lot about is the inequity in our region, and this is something that is growing. We've got a lot of people living in poverty, experiencing homelessness, housing affordability stress, food insecurity, unemployment, and lack of access to basic services. And we're also facing major environmental challenges due to rapid population growth and development and the impacts of climate change. I think we can do better, and council can play a key role in addressing some of these issues. If re-elected, my priorities are going to be stronger action and more urgent action on climate change, increased affordable and social housing, delivering on that strategy we've developed in my first term, improved public transport, cycling and walking options, reduced waste going to landfill, especially food waste, high quality community services for all of our community, continued efforts to reduce the harms from problem gambling, access to open green space and community hubs for all residents, support for community gardens and food relief, protection and restoration of our environmental assets, fair and transparent local planning that involves the community, especially on really major strategies, more local employment opportunities, especially for young people, implementing the Reconciliation Action Plan, more support for local business and arts to rebuild a vibrant Geelong, and sports club facilities to grow female participation. Look, if we're elected, I can't promise to fix all of these things. No councillor can, but I will always listen. I'll seek out the best advice and evidence. I will work respectfully and collaboratively with colleagues and staff, and I'll put caring for people and the environment at the heart of all my decisions.
Thank you, Bernie Frankie.
Thanks, Mitchell. I'm already a bit sick of the sound of my own voice. The primary reason your rates keep going up is that nobody is controlling the escalating council wages bill. How much do you enjoy the constant rate hikes? Let's do something about it. Thanks, Mitchell.
Thank you, Melissa Cadwell.
Thank you. I'm running for council because I think there's no one like me on council. And I'm asking people to vote for me because I want to see people like me, people like us from the outer suburbs in particular, get a fair go on this council. The current council has made it clear they only seem to care about the CBD, the business interests and their property developer mates. You only need to see that, to read the Addy to see that. That's all they've been able to talk about today. If it's not potentially wasting $2 million ripping up part of the Green Spine, or it's another half-baked idea about ripping up footpaths on Little Mallop Street to let cars in again, destroying a part of the CBD that's actually working quite well. And yet they can't seem to work out a solution for the mall on the other side of Moorabool Street. I'm really frustrated. This council has done everything that it could to shred its relationship with the state government, who now don't want to fund local projects. That means that we're missing out. No one seems to care about our suburbs, our community, our neighbours and our streets outside of the CBD. And I want to change that. If elected, I'm going to oppose any increase in costs for essential community services like childcare, libraries and leisure centres, home care and Meals on Wheels. I'm going to oppose any reduction in outsourcing and privatisation of council jobs and services, because we know that when privatisation happens, the quality decreases and the costs increase. I'm going to work to bring our local streets and parks and community spaces up to the same standard or better that the rest of Geelong enjoys. I hear from residents in the outer suburbs every day that they feel forgotten, that they want trees planted in their areas and they want good footpaths and good street lighting. They want connected public transport and bike paths. They want community gardens and they want great sporting facilities. But we're only going to get a fair go from council if we elect someone who's going to stick up for our area and our issues. Someone like me, an everyday working person who cares enough to make sure that we all get a fair go and a fair share. So I'm asking for your vote in this election. It's time for one of us for a change.
Sorry, that's your 2 minutes. Thank you so much. Jose Rodriguez.
Thanks again, Mitchell. The reason I've put my hat in the ring is because I believe that Geelong is a clever and creative place. I think its future is tied up with this clever and creative vision. And I think that it has everything it needs to fulfill that vision. I believe that the leadership of the city reflects the culture of the city. And I believe in this case, the culture of the city has changed drastically over the last 10 years. We've seen the rise of entrepreneurial businesses. We've seen it cultivate new kinds of events and programs. And if it were not for COVID-19, we'd probably all be sort of enjoying something this evening. So it's some kind of outdoor nightlife activity. And this is all because of the fine grain. And this is the value of the city and the community. And I think that all these entrepreneurial businesses and these attitudes have changed the way that Geelong views itself. And I think that the future is actually very good for Geelong. I think its leadership can reflect those businesses and that culture can actually be embraced by the leadership and governance of the City of Greater Geelong. And I think that it can be positioned in the future as a national leader in terms of its council projects, its ambitions, the way that it operates. It should be something that actually gets reflected across the city, across the nation, as an entity that reflects the best and creative and clever thinking. So I hope that the voters out there will consider the future of the city, and what they'll do is they'll consider where they believe the values of their city lie. This is a collective effort, and so I hope that they'll make a decision based on where they see the city in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter Murray.
Yes, thank you. Look, I think with me, what you see is what you get. I have the experience. I'm committed. Unlike other candidates, I have no other work, so I am fortunate to be able to commit and have committed enormous amount of hours over the past 3 years to the councillor position. I'm truly independent. I'm community focused with a can-do attitude. But most of all, I'm authentic. I'm real. I'm not influenced by minority groups or have someone whispering in my ear. As I say, I offer a truly independent voice on council. I've worked tirelessly and will continue to if re-elected. I believe this council has achieved much in the past 3 years. There's much more to achieve. It has momentum, and now is not the time for a change. So vote 1, Peter Murray for Brownbill.
Thank you, Gabrielle Winenka.
Thank you for that. I guess one of the biggest questions that most of you out there will be having is why vote for me? And I think a vote for Gabriel is a vote for the community. I have been, in the last 14 years, I've built strong roots in this community. I'm on the board for One Care Geelong, a community organisation that's seeking to provide food relief for those suffering social isolation. I think the council has done a good job in the last couple of years, but one of the things that is definitely lacking is a focus on those that are doing it tough. The families in marginal areas that are finding it hard to find a meal in a given day, and COVID has made it particularly hard for those people. So on council, I would want to advocate and support them in any way we can, providing more grants to community organisations that are feeding the hungry and providing housing for the poor. A vote for me is also a vote for sustainability. I would advocate for increased support for a Geelong that's working towards zero emissions, and that's something that I think we all believe in. I also want to advocate to be a voice for young people. For far too long, council has not had young people being represented well in decision making, and that's one thing that what I seek to do is to be a voice for those young people on council. I also want to be a voice for multicultural Australia. We have so many different families and people that come from all walks of life in Geelong, and most of them don't see someone representing their needs on council. But I'm not just going to be a voice for young people alone or for multicultural Australia alone. I want to be a voice for all of Geelong, and that's why you should vote for Gabriel Nyika.
Thank you very much, Stretch Contel.
Thank you, Mitchell. I think there is need for change. I don't think steady as she goes, status quo is the go. We are in unprecedented times and we need to take unprecedented steps and action. If I was elected, I would be calling a meeting of the council and a strategy day to work out how is council going to help the city get out of the COVID crisis. My suggestions, it's all about creating jobs. Council has a big infrastructure budget. It needs to start accelerating that budget to create jobs. It needs to introduce local procurement, affirmative purchasing policies that spend money with local suppliers and employ local people. We need to look at the way we impose rates. My suggestion of recent days is we should be looking at how can we reduce rates by up to 25% for people on their principal place of residence. We need to ease the squeeze, not just cap expenditure and not let it increase. We need to find how we're going to reduce it. I think Geelong's suffering at the moment under this current council in relation to unmanaged growth. Geelong is growing at a pace, but the policies are not in place to manage east-west, north-south traffic, for example. That needs addressing. As far as environmental and sustainable business and development, it's not happening fast enough. We need to have affirmative action in this area. Some ideas of mine is we need to have very specific targets in relation to recycling to reduce the amount of waste going to landfill, not just talk about it, let's do it. a waste to energy plant, saving the heritage. I've got a lot of residents very concerned about the South Geelong urban framework. I strongly believe in arts and culture-led CBD revival and fast-tracking expenditure on sporting community projects. These are things that we should be hitting within the first 100 days.
Thank you very much, Stretch. And would you believe we've heard 71 closing statements from the candidates this week across our 9 forums. The 72nd and final closing statement for this week is Sandy Dwyer.
Thank you so much. It feels like there's a lot of talk about community, and when I think of community, I feel our community has a whole lot of little sub-communities. There are communities that are based on cultural situations, communities based on sexual preferences, communities of young people, and all of these micro communities form our larger community, and they all need to be considered and to have a voice. So it feels like setting up some kind of citizens assembly where everyone can have their voice heard and contribute to the decision making in council would be amazing. And you know, that level of collaboration across areas like agriculture and city design, transportation, localizing of goods and services. These are all areas that a high level of collaboration can really, you know, work well. We are not little islands, and not one of us has all of the answers, but within our incredible community, there are lots of answers and we need to draw on them. So for me, it's so much about getting real being regeneration, you know, this regenerate the soil, ecology, biodiversity, E for emissions, get them to 0 by 2030, A, the assembly of citizens, and L, to localise goods and services. These are the things that are going to help us to reverse climate change and also are going to initiate lots of new jobs in our community and bring all the aspects of community together to collaborate. It's like we are not doing it on our own. We reversed the COVID curve and we've got to work our way through it by also reversing the climate curve.
Thank you very much, Sandy. Appreciate it. And thank you very much to all of our candidates for your contributions and attendance today. Sandy Dwyer, Bernie Frankie, Alex Saar, Peter Murray, Stretch Contell, Sarah Mansfield, Eddie Contell, Gabrielle Winenka, Dean Hope, Lewis Hare, Jose Rodriguez, and Melissa Cadwell. And all of these forums will be available for replay soon at mitchellsfrontpage.com, or you can just type in Mitchell's Front Page wherever you get your podcasts. And also feel free to check out our election guide and election calculator there, because we've already had about 1,000 scenarios mapped out by people with that. Because this is our last forum of the week, first of all, thank you to the 72 candidates that we've had here this week. I can't think of any other radio station that does democracy quite like we do. To get 72 out of 84 candidates all together in 1 week must be some sort of new record. Thank you to our wonderful station volunteers. Special shout out to Jen, who's done some great work with the letterboxing of flyers, inviting the community to submit questions. Thanks to our wonderful staff, Jacqueline and Leah on reception, fielding all sorts of calls from candidates and voters. Thanks to our wonderful station manager, Leo. And thank you to Sky and Sam, who do the community engagement and communications. Since our first discussions about these forums back in July, they've worked really, really hard. So I thank them very much for that. Well, ballot packs, if they haven't already arrived, should be arriving. I wish everyone happy voting. Happy voting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mitchell.
Thanks, Mitchell.